This video will talk about finding slope using the slope formula from 2 points and also graphing using slope. We talked about rise over run in the last video. Rise over run, remember you take your point and you go down to another point and see how you rose and ran. So here, we're up here at this point and I want to get down here to this one. And notice this line is going down, so that tells us that it's going to have a negative slope. Because it goes down, we know it's going to be a negative slope. So we have to go down 4 to get across from our other point. And we went over 2 to the right, so that's a positive 2, but this is a negative 4 because we went down. And so slope is going to be negative 4 rise over 2, which is run, which reduced gives us negative 2. Now, if we use the slope formula, we should get that same slope. The slope formula has all these subscripts in it. Well, we're going to start out and just call this point right here x1 and y1. But in reality, we know that point to be the x-intercept, so it is 2 in the x direction and 0 in the y direction. So x1 is equal to 2, y1 is going to be equal to 0. And then this point up here, we're going to call this one x2, y2. And we also know in reality that that is a y-intercept. So we go 0 in the x direction and to positive 4 in the y direction. That point is 0, 4. And that means that x2 will be 0 and y2 will be 4. So using our formula, y2 we just said was 4. And then minus my y1, which happens to be 0 right here. And then on the other part of our formula, it says x2. And you need to know that you have to start with the same x as the y that you started with from the same point. So 0 would be my x2. And then I look at my x1, and that happens to be 2. And when I subtract, I have 4 minus 0 is 4 over 0 minus 2, which is negative 2, and 4 divided by negative 2 is also negative 2. Alright, so now it says find 2 other points on this line. So let's find some really nice points where they cross the grid nice, like this one right here. And that one we went over 1 and we went up 2. So it's the point 1, 2. And then this point down here also goes through that grid really nicely. And that point looks like we went over 3. But this time we went down 2, so it's a negative 2. So 1, 2, and 3, negative 2. Now use the slope formula again. So we'll just let this be x1, y1, and the other one be x2, y2. So x1, y1, and x2, y2. It doesn't matter. We could switch them and say that these are the x2 and y2. You just have to choose which point you're going to start with. So y2 is negative 2 minus y1, which is the other y, or 2. And then we start again with this x, because that's the y that we started with. So 3 minus the other x, which is 1. And that gives us negative 4 when we subtract. And then 3 minus 1 would be 2, which gives us negative 2 again. So we've taken and used this rise over run to find the slope was negative 2. We've used our slope formula with the x-intercept and y-intercept and found that it was negative 2. And then we found 2 other points on the same line and we found out that the slope was negative 2. So it doesn't matter which points we choose. We just need to find 2 points on the line and use the slope formula. Alright, so moving on. The equation of this line is really y equal negative 2x plus 4. What did you find the slope of this line to be? Well, we let that be negative 2. Is that value anywhere in the equation? Yes, it is. It happens to be right here. So it is the coefficient on x. What did you find the y-intercept to be? If you look back at your graph, it was 0, 4, the 4 being the important part here. And where did you find that value in the equation? Now that happens to be the constant. So let's give another equation and see what we know about the equation. Given y equal 1/3 x plus 2, what is the slope of the line? Back up here at number 4, we said the slope of the line was the coefficient on x. So in that case, we should have a slope of 1/3. And does a line have a positive or negative slope? It would be a positive 1/3 because our coefficient is positive. And what is the y-intercept? That's back here at number 5, the constant. So that would be 2.
Okay, so we're going to use the equation that we just talked about, y equal 1/3 x plus 2, and we want to plot the y-intercept and then use the slope to help us graph this. So let's get some axes in here. We'll call this the y-axis, and we'll call this the x-axis. Hopefully that'll be a good place to put them. This is y, this is x. And we want to just plot the y-intercept, so that's 2. Remember, that's the point 0, 2. So 0, 2 would be this point right here. And then we're going to use our slope. So rise is going to equal 1, and run is going to equal 3. So we're going to go up 1 and to the right 3. So from this point that we just plotted, we're going to go up 1 and to the right 3. And we'll have that point right there. If we want to find another point, we can go up 1 again and over 3 to have this point. Now, let's talk about what if I run out of space on my graph. You could say 1/3 is also equal to -1 over -3, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So if I took this point right here and I went down 1, that's what -1 means, and to the left 3, look, I'd be back on a point on my line. Down 1 to the left 3, I'd be here. If I wanted to plot another point, I could go down 1 from my original point and then over 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'd have another point on my line. And then if I carefully try to connect them, it's a wavy line, but there's my line, right? So graphing using slope is very easy to do. So tell what is wrong with the graph of the equation. So the slope is -4/3 and the y-intercept is 8. Let's see if the y-intercept is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the y-intercept being 8, that checks. Now, if I go down 4, this means down 4, and I go to the right 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the right 3, 1, 2, 3, I end up over here, which is not on my line. That would mean that my line would have to go like this. So the problem with my slope is if I try +4/3. So if I pick a nice point, I'm going to run out of space. So I'm going to come over here. Any point on my line, if I go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3, I get to another point on my graph. So it's a positive, not -4/3 slope. And you could have looked at the equation and said negative means that my line should look like this, and our line looks the opposite direction, so the sign is wrong. Remember, positive slope goes up from left to right, negative slope goes down from left to right.